and welcome to another episode of Hitting the Bar, the football podcast. I'm Chris Karle.
And I'm Geoff Saunders.
Well, Geoff, more football this weekend gone, and an FA Cup, and champions, not elect anymore, but crowned champions, Liverpool.
Champions, deservedly so, without any hint of doubt.
All right, without any hint of doubt, I think I agree. We'll talk about why and how brilliant they were in a moment, but first, Geoff's trivia question for this week.
Oh, in 1956, in the match between Charlton and Huddersfield, it was Huddersfield at Charlton were at home. With 20 minutes to go, Charlton were 5-1 down at home.
5-1 down at home, 20 minutes to go, yep.
What happened next?
Ooh, what happened next one? Fantastic, we'll find out at the end. But Liverpool are champions by a long way. Basically, they won it earlier than anybody's ever won it, game-wise, but then later than anybody's won it because we're into June.
Well, only because of the lockdown. They would have won the Champions League, the World Club Cup and the English Premier League all within 11 months if we hadn't had a lockdown. So it was just stunning. Absolutely brilliant. I have to say, I've been watching football a long time, much longer than I care to remember. I have never ever seen a team as good as that.
Yes, it was
so comprehensively.
Yes, what a team he's assembled, Jurgen Klopp. I mean, of course, you know, you get all the jokes, and some of them I appreciate. You'll never walk alone. You'll never hear the end of it, and all that, because obviously they're going to gloat, as anybody would. But I think Liverpool so comprehensive this season and so amazing.
Yeah, and the more you read the very many articles about why, the more you understand why. It's been a quite brilliant transformation by Klopp and his team. And you know, we've been introduced to all the different members of the team, and like Edwards, who runs the sporting director. They win because they deserve to win. Just consider this for a second. 2 years ago, they were 25 points behind Manchester City. Last year, they were 1 point behind, so they made up 24 points. This year, so far, they're 23 points ahead, so they made up another 24 points.
That is progress, isn't it? That's an amazing feat by Klopp.
24 points a season for the last 2 seasons. Now, unfortunately for them, and fortunately for all the rest of us, they can't do it again because there are only 114 points available.
There's a limit,
but they could end up with 107 points.
Wow.
The previous record being 100, which was 2 years ago by City.
Well, it looks like the amount of points they're going to get will have been enough to win the Premier League for the last 25 times out of 26.
Well, actually, the points they got last season would have done that as well.
Wow. I mean, they're brilliant, and people are, of course, churlish about it a little bit.
Well, particularly Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that, because you were saying before we started his reaction. Now, most managers, of course, are going to go, well done, congratulations, it's the sporting and professional thing to do, but he was a little bit funny about it.
Well, it's more than it's sporting and professional. The managers understand how difficult it is to do.
Yeah, well, only one team can do it, can't they? Yeah.
And Alex Ferguson's congratulations didn't come with any caveats. It was just brilliant, well done. Ole decided that wasn't quite enough. It was oh, congratulations. Oh, and so Alex Ferguson did it 13 times, and yeah, we know. We were there. Why say that?
Yeah,
what's the purpose in you saying that?
And what relation or what connection does that have to Jurgen Klopp and those 24 players and this season? Yeah. It doesn't.
None at all. He should take his lead from Alex Ferguson, who just actually wrote a letter saying congratulations, you deserved it, well done. End of story.
Yeah, and most managers have done that. I mean, then yesterday I think he came out, Ollie, and said it's time Man United won trophies. Trying to draw attention to his side, who are unbeaten in something like 14 games now.
Yeah, they're on a very good run, but I think this is coming out of the Jose Mourinho playbook, isn't it? Let's talk about me. Enough of someone else. What about me?
Liverpool have done something unprecedented. As I say, they won the Club World Cup, they won the Champions League, and then they've gone on to win this season with aplomb and not playing. I mean, there have been years when teams, including in my mind, teams like Manchester United, for example, and Arsenal for sure, that I've seen, who've won the season ugly. They've had many 1-0 victories where they've really forced that victory over the line, literally, when it's been really, they shouldn't have won the game, or they've played dirty, or they've just played some very, very boring football. But Liverpool have done it with flair and with talent, and they've been a beautiful team to watch throughout the season generally.
Oh, absolutely. It's a team that's won 26 of 27 league games from August to 28th of February. They haven't lost at home in the league in 3 years. A group of world champions whose best player is an unfussy centre-back, whose centre-forward can't score at home, whose most creative force is a junior right-back, And they spent a net £92 million on transfer fees in the last 5 years. West Ham have spent more than that.
Yeah, wow, and they're in the relegation zone.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's not how much you spend, it's how well you spend it. And they've spent extremely well. And the thing that Klopp is probably best at is developing talent. Taking Trent at TA² out of the youth team where he was a midfielder and turning him into a fullback, and spending 6 months him working one-on-one with one of the coaches in how to be a fullback the way Klopp wants a fullback to play. Now, they took Robertson from Hull City. Nobody else came in for him, by the way.
From Hull, by the way, yes. Yeah.
No one else came in for him, which shows you how good their coaching is. Robertson was already the fullback that Klopp wanted, but even he spent 3 months being taught how to play the way, how he could fit the way he plays into the Liverpool team. And you take one of those two fullbacks out and they're a different team. You know, it's a kind of sort of disruptive element that Klopp brings. In his Liverpool team, fullbacks are attackers, midfielders are defenders, which they are. Wingers are goal scorers, centre forwards chase and counter press. It's football in a different way than anyone else is playing it at the moment.
It's confusing for everybody else. But I kind of, what I took away from what you've just said for me is the sort of luxury and patience that he's allowed to take a player, first of all, from Hull and change him, and then to take an academy player and teach him a new position.
Yes.
I mean, not many managers would spend the time doing that. They'd either buy that player who's ready-made. I don't know, it seems to be a luxury almost, but it shows a dedication on Klopp's part. A very, very special manager.
Oh, very much so. I think he's quite exceptional. You know, I don't think there are any caveats around, and it does actually annoy me to hear all the yes buts and oh, congratulations, but this and but that. Particularly the people going on about Liverpool. Oh, it's been 30 years since they won it. As if that's the story. In that 30 years where they didn't win the Premier League, they won 14 other trophies. Yeah,
there's not many teams around them that can say that. Tottenham certainly can't, team.
There aren't many teams in the Premier League that have won 14 trophies in their entire history.
Yeah, that's very true. For me, I think the special thing is that they didn't win it ugly. They didn't win it in a boring way. They won it by playing very unusual football, as you pointed out, with all the different positioning. They've won it in an exciting way to watch. There have been some times when I felt VAR went in their favour and they won a game when they shouldn't, but that happens to every team throughout the season.
And it always happens to the winners.
But it always happens to the winners because people remember those things. Yeah. However, even if you took those points away from them, they'd still win it by 20 points, so it makes no difference. The point is, I think, for me, Klopp is just phenomenal. But he's also great. For me, he's a great addition to the Premier League because he's interesting to watch and listen to. But he's also comes across as a very nice guy and somebody you definitely can imagine motivating the players on a wet Monday in January when they've just lost 3-0. You can imagine him coming into work and everything lifting him around him and everybody going, yeah, well, I want to work for this guy.
Part of that is the way that Klopp was brought up, but also part of it goes back to the story he tells when he was 20 years old. His son had just been born. He was studying at the local university in the evenings to get his football business and coaching degree, and he was looking as well for a second job to help pay the bills. So I think it's very like Ian Wright, because he actually understood what everyone else goes through in life. He didn't become a millionaire at 17 years old with his first
footballer.
He had to work for it. Maybe he understands better, and people who know him say actually when he leaves the ground he switches off. He's not compulsive about it in the way that Guardiola is, where it takes over the whole of his life. He never switches off, never stops thinking football. Klopp does. When he gets home, he's
a family man.
A family man, yeah.
Sitting and watching telly with his kids and not thinking about football.
Yeah, probably exactly the way to be. I would guess that Sir Alex Ferguson is like that as well.
Well, maybe that's a mark of being a professional, that you can. Why don't you stay late in the office? Because I get everything I need to do in time. Yeah. So maybe he gets his work done when he needs to, so he doesn't have to fret about it after.
Yeah, there was a management book by a guy called Blanchard called The 1 Minute Manager, about how you can, every task as a manager that you can do, it takes a minute, and there is no reason for you staying till 9 o'clock at night. All that shows is you're not doing your job.
You're not doing it in time, not doing it properly. Yeah. All right, so we think Klopp is great. I don't think there's any reason why people should not be praising them. They're a great team. Let's see what happens next season, but they're still a young team.
They're a young team, and
it's worrying for everybody else around them.
Yeah, if they follow the Liverpool history, they will buy in the summer and surprise people simple with what they do.
Who do you think they're going to buy? Do you think it is going to be Jadon Sancho, or is he still...
I have no idea. I would be very surprised if they would buy like that. What I would be 100% certain of is they know now who they want to buy and why.
They probably know if Salah's leaving or staying. They probably know who is leaving and staying. They've got a few who are going out onto retirement. Lallana is being allowed to leave the club, so they know they've got to replace him. He's been a good servant for them. They know they've got to replace him. They probably know who they want to take them to the next stage. You're right.
I remember Liverpool had won the league back in the day, and they paid £200,000 for David Johnson, who was the centre forward of Ipswich, who I think came third that year, and he didn't play for a month. And journalists were asking Bill Shankly, as it was then, why are you not playing Johnson? He said, we've got to teach him how to play football. So, you have to learn how to, what he was saying was you learn how to play the Liverpool way.
Yes, yeah.
And then Johnson got into the side, and he was top goal scorer for the next couple of years. They have a history of surprising people like that, but I would imagine the next few players who come in are going to be potential replacements for someone. So you've got to force your way into the team and deserve to be there. Yeah,
there is that Klopp way. So well done to Liverpool. Let's have a little look at some of the other results from last week, because the Liverpool becoming champions was because of they were brilliant all season, but it just happened to happen when they weren't playing, because Chelsea beat Man City, meaning City couldn't catch them, so they had big celebrations on Thursday. Yeah. But there were some other results. Manchester United still on that roll, as we said.
They're not convincing, but they're getting better. Yeah.
They are getting better. I mean, it seems to go in circles with them, or cycles. But I think it's 13 or 14 is the 13 unbeaten, 33 goals, 4-3 against, so it's quite good.
I think there's been a big turnaround since Fernandes went there. He is the difference in that team. Very, very intelligent player. Knows where the goal is, knows where his teammates are. Doesn't waste the ball. He's been very, very good.
And linking up with Martial and Rashford and creating goals. I think he's been there, played for about 11 or 12 of those 13.
Yeah, that's right.
So quite clearly, he is the difference, because they were losing games before that.
Yeah.
But they did beat Sheffield United, which is a kind of a 6-pointer in a way, 3-0. Yeah. First hat-trick for United since Disselroy or something.
Yeah, Sheffield United can't get back to where they were before.
Yeah, what's happened, because they were one of the teams that we were praising, and still are. But I mean, what happened to them? Because it seems strange that since the break they've not caught up, have they?
Yeah, that's right. Their impetus stopped, and they can't seem to get back to where they were. I don't know the reason for it, but I know that is what has happened.
It's very strange, because he's a good manager.
Oh, very good manager, yeah.
Another good manager who you were talking to me about before we started is Sean Dyche. At Burnley, they've won 2 on the bounce now, 1-0 and 1-0. Was it Watford and Crystal Palace, home and away, or whatever it was?
Well, they deserve to win both matches, and certainly last night's match against Palace, they deserved to win. Although they were played off the pitch for 10 minutes, but Palace couldn't score, and that let Burnley off. And he made a couple of small adjustments, and it was all Burnley from then on. But their problem, like many teams at the bottom, is getting enough money to buy the really creative, incisive forwards who will always score. And it was Ben Mee who got the header from a corner, basically, who got the goal, which you kind of think, okay, that's typical Burnley. But they outplayed Palace.
Well, there seems to be a little bit of a push now for European places, a big competition, because that puts Burnley back in contention for that.
Yeah, one place off the Everton.
The Everton spot, the Everton position, as you call it. But there's Burnley, there's Crystal Palace still in with a chance for European football, Sheffield United, Wolves, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United. But what happens if Man City do get banned from the Champions League, which is possible, which makes 5th place then 4th place? But what happens if Man United then win the Europa League and finish 5th? Does that mean who finishes 6th then gets into the Champions League? It could do. And then 7th and 8th are Europa.
No, I don't think so. We had this a few years ago, didn't we? Where I think it was Manchester United did it again then. And I think we found that the Champions League place doesn't get passed on. I wouldn't swear to it, though.
But nevertheless.
I think if Manchester City lose their appeal, then the Europa League goes down to the 8th place.
Right, so there is big competition for that.
And Burnley are there. Whether they want to be in it or not, bearing in mind what happened last time they were, is debatable.
Yeah, it does stretch your squad.
Well, they played 3 matches, so they they kicked off the season having played 3 more than anyone else and didn't get into the group stage.
Yeah, I mean, it was a struggle for them, and of course, by the time the season started, half the players were knackered.
Yeah.
That is a stretch for a lot of those clubs, but nevertheless, it's an achievement. Out of all that group, I want to talk about my team, Tottenham, because Mourinho said, and he has to say it, I suppose, but top 4 is still possible. It's not, though, is it?
No, it isn't.
It's just not.
No, I mean, they might be able to be one of that chasing pack, but they're not going to be all of them.
Obviously, Liverpool and Man City first and second, that's not going to change.
That's not going to change.
Leicester struggling a bit now.
They are struggling, yes.
That they could drop out of the top 4, but Chelsea are not going to.
It looks as if they won't. No, they look quite good against Leicester again after 20 minutes. And Lampard did. I've been saying for quite a long time, the great thing about Lampard is he learns, and he learnt during the match there, and you watched him to make 3 substitutions at half time. It's almost unheard of in English football.
Yeah.
And when asked about it, he took 3 players off. He said, "Well, I could have taken 7 of them off." He was not happy, and he let them know about it. Took 3 players off, replaced them with more experienced players, and they looked so much better.
Yeah, he's got a good, decent team. I mean, let's not forget, when he took over Chelsea, they had just finished 3rd in the league anyway. Not much changed, apart from one major thing, I suppose, was Hazard leaving.
Losing Hazard, yeah. And the key thing now about losing Hazard is that they got, I think, 109 million for Hazard. They've still got 25 million of that money left, having bought Timo Werner and Hakim Ziyech.
Yes, yeah.
So, they still haven't got a net spend out of that. So they can still buy someone. They're rumoured to be after Kai Havertz or Ben Chilwell. I would suggest, to me, they don't need Kai Havertz because they've got enough players playing attacking left-sided roles already. Chilwell might cost well north of 60 million, which is questionable when you consider that Robertson cost 11 million. This is the world we live in. But I think he'd be a great addition, because where Chelsea were falling down throughout the whole match was left back. I mean, Emerson, the Brazilian they've got in there, is not up to it.
No. Just, you mentioned Timo Werner. Quite interestingly, this weekend, he played his last game in Germany. He scored twice. His second goal was his last ever touch in a Leipzig shirt, which is quite fitting. Yeah. But also, I believe, made him Leipzig's top ever scorer in the league.
Yeah, but use the word ever for a team that's only existed for 20 years. Remember?
Yeah, true. Yeah, all right, for 20 years, it's not quite that 100-year history thing, but still, that's kind of fairy story. Scores twice on his, whatever the opposite of debut is, his bow out.
Yeah.
His finale game, his final game, and then scores with his last touch. Obviously, he scored, and the manager went take him off because they were winning. But that's a lovely end to his career there.
And he's a very good player.
Yeah, kind of looks good for his start with Chelsea. I'm interested that he did sign for Chelsea and nobody else. Chelsea are in the top 4, I understand that, but there were other teams chasing him, and for some reason he decided Chelsea was the one.
One of his decision points is going to be, am I going to be a starter or will I sit on the bench? So if he'd gone to Liverpool, he would unquestionably start on the bench.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And he'd be, living in London, I suppose, is an attraction.
London, yeah.
With all due respect to Liverpool, I suppose, but living in London, young man with money.
Yeah. I think he's been very, very clever, and I think extremely well advised by his agent, stroke business manager, whatever. Because people were going in for him last year and 2 years ago and last year, and he decided to stay with Leipzig. And they obviously negotiated this very, very low buyout fee of 53 million, which, when you think about what centre forwards who score 1 goal every 2 matches, or in fact he's better than that.
But you're talking 70 million plus, aren't you? Straight away.
Comfortably 100 million maybe. But we don't know what's going to happen to prices now, because certainly in Germany the latest TV deal is 400 million euros less than the previous one.
Ouch. Yeah.
We've got 12 teams in the top 2 divisions in Germany technically bankrupt. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with transfer fees. But saying to Leipzig, okay, I'll stay another 2 years, but the buyout's got to be reasonable, and they set it at 53 million, which meant he could basically choose who he goes to. I mean, it's been very well worked out for him.
Brilliant. All right, that's Timo Werner. Let's turn our attention to the match that you and I watched together last week. Your team against my team, Tottenham against West Ham. Tottenham won it 2-0. I know that you and our colleague Kirk Blows who's a writer and West Ham fan. I know he had a lot of grievances about that game regarding VAR. For me, that was Tottenham won it comfortably, and I think West Ham were in trouble.
Well, West Ham are in trouble, and the VAR, I don't think it was as clear a handball as other people think it was.
What happened was it brushed off the arm of a Tottenham player and then hit the back of the leg of a West Ham player and went in for an own goal.
It was just a very, very unlucky goal. I mean, that's the thing I take away from it, rather than was a handball. Okay, it might have been, but kind of.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if that's going to be the difference between us staying up and staying down, well, first of all, you have to say it isn't going to be because because what happened in the other 37 games.
Yeah, it's the way you've played badly in 10 of those other games or whatever.
I think that's probably got a lot more to do with it.
Yeah.
Fabianski being injured actually is the reason, because our performance up until the point where Fabianski was injured, they were good, and it was the goals given away when the reserve keeper, whose name I've forgotten, came in that screwed us, and then we were chasing it from then on.
So, yeah, that didn't help at all. But West Ham looked, for me, and I hate to use this sort of word that pundits or commentators use all the time, but toothless.
Well, I think there was no energy, and you could see that in the body language and see what they were running for, what they weren't running for, and there was no shape. So they're clearly not doing for the manager the things that they've been working on in training. They're not playing for the manager, and that's a serious thing. And that's 2 managers this season those players haven't been playing for.
I was going to say that was going to be my next point, is that you and I watched the game. Mourinho sat there with a stern face on, as always, lounging back on his chair like a catalogue model. But he had his tactics right. I think we were a bit toothless in attack. I think we controlled the game nicely. There was some lovely passing, there was some lovely control, but I think if there hadn't been that handball, we would have scored another goal anyway.
No, I mean the result, the particular score,
how it happened,
might have changed, but Tottenham deservedly won that.
They
match.
did, but
who were they playing?
But who were they playing? That doesn't mean that Tottenham are brilliant again.
No,
but what it does mean is West Ham are still shambolic, if you like. But my point was kind of going to be we were looking at the 2 managers, and David Moyes, he's got this sort of wide-eyed expression on his face, and it is that deer in the headlights kind of thing.
Very much.
But he looks terrified and clueless.
Yes.
And I think if I was playing for him, that would rub off on me. Well, you'd feel very jumpy, I think. If the manager looks jumpy and nervous and anxious, you're going to think, oh my God, what's going to happen? What are we doing?
Yeah, I don't think the players have enough time to be looking over and studying the manager's face, to be honest. I think...
No, I mean in general, though.
Yeah, I know. Do they believe in the manager? And, it's like discipline at school. It's a confidence trick. If you don't buy into it, it doesn't work. Yeah. It only works when you buy into it. They're not buying into what the manager is saying. It's obvious. You can see them. One of the Tottenham goals, there were 9 West Ham players behind the ball, and Tottenham managed to go pretty much the length of the field before any challenge was made. And there was no shape to those 9 players. They were just
ambling about.
Well, they were, and there was no conviction. You watch Leicester or Sheffield United, and especially Liverpool and Manchester City, how they press. They go and they get the ball, they harry. Look at Kante and Ndidi, how they do it. No one in the West Ham team was doing that. Diop was just fighting a lone battle at the back, as he is a world-class centre back, and he'll go to one of the huge clubs, and he must wonder what the hell he's doing. Why am I doing this? And Albuena next to him had a nightmare. Couldn't, just seemed to have no ability to kick the ball, head the ball, mark a player.
Important in a football, are those things.
Well, yeah, and the right back, Fredericks, I think it was. What about showing the guy the outside, pushing him out to the touchline? Instead, he takes the safe option of show him inside, just let him lay the ball off, and I've done my job. And all the West Ham players, whenever they got the ball, it was all they're taking the line of least resistance. So the forwards, with the exception of Bowen was trying, but the forwards weren't taking their defender on. They weren't taking a risk. Much safer to keep the ball. So there was no
running at the defence at all.
Turn back inside, pass the ball back to a centre back, keep possession, and I won't have made a mistake.
So where now for West Ham? Is it south into the Championship? Or are you lucky that the other teams around you are equally bad or worse even?
Well, since the restart went on, the teams in the bottom 5 have played 13, won 0, drawn 3, lost 10.
That's all of the teams in in the bottom. Yeah.
So I think the answer is West Ham deserve to go down. Will they go down? Well, I don't know. It's going to depend on how bad the other teams are.
And they are pretty bad, some of them.
They will be rescued by somebody or not rescued by somebody.
Yeah.
But it won't be down to them.
It won't be down to them. Interesting, good point. This Villa and Norwich probably already down.
Looks like it, doesn't it?
So it is a battle between West Ham against themselves and the other teams just hopefully being worse. Brighton have pulled it round a bit.
They have a bit.
So they pulled away from you. Watford battling on but losing.
Well, they're on the downward slope, aren't they?
They are. I wanted to quickly, before we move on to Watford, because it was something we said halfway through the season when Nigel Pearson took over and suddenly they had an upturn, didn't they?
Yeah.
And we thought, he's reinvented himself and reinvented the Watford team, and they kept going forward and winning. And then after this restart, they've gone back down again.
Yeah, the restart has very badly affected them. They looked to have pulled clear, and it came at a very bad time for them. Definitely.
Yeah, it's weird.
They were on their way up to mid-table.
Definitely mid-table, and now possibly they will pull it round, but they're right down in there with the battle with yourselves.
Good manager, Pearson, though. He's a good manager.
He is. There are a few good managers there that you don't probably hear enough of or about.
Yeah.
Obviously your Jose Mourinho's get the limelight because of their personality and their past. But Sean Dyche, Chris Wilder, Graham Potter at Brighton, all those guys, doing reasonable jobs or good jobs.
They're doing good jobs,
with very small budgets. But I want to just go back to the West Ham game, if you'll allow me, Geoff, because this criticism of Harry Kane that we had against the Man United game.
This criticism of Harry Kane is complete and utter rubbish, by the way.
Well, it is, yes. That was going to... hopefully you were going to say that. But he had a great game against West Ham, I thought.
I think he had a great game. He had a very good game.
Good game, all right. Okay.
Yeah, it's absolute rubbish. I can't believe that the writers and people are writing and saying what they're saying. He's been out injured all of this year.
He hasn't played since since Christmas.
So do you not think he might be a little bit rusty?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair at all, really. I mean, he was tracking back, he was getting the ball, he was pressing. As you were saying about the Liverpool and Man City players, always trying to get the ball back. That's what he was doing. Yeah. And he scored a goal.
And he scored. And you could see when he plays with Dele Alli, a player who's on the same wavelength as him, things start to happen.
They do.
Son looks better because suddenly there's a bit more space for him because the forwards have now, the defenders now, oh God, we got to watch Kane. Oh, where's Ali going? And they cross over and pull players out of position. Kane is superb, and the criticism of him is just absolute rubbish, and people should be ashamed of themselves. The issue with Kane, of course, is will he stay?
Well, obviously as a Tottenham fan, I'm desperate for him to stay because we have not got a replacement for him.
You don't.
There doesn't seem to be anybody lined up, and famously Tottenham over the last few years have signed some backup strikers who haven't fulfilled their potential or their promise, really. I'm not going to point fingers or name names because they were great players or good players. They just didn't fit in at Tottenham because maybe they didn't get the games. Son is good, great. Mora's there, Dele Alli doing what he does, although I think he's a bit rusty. Take Kane out of the equation and you get what's happened over the last few months.
Exactly. It's going to be an issue for Tottenham because the way that players are now, you have to come away thinking, well, Kane is going to want to win trophies, isn't he? I don't mean FA Cup. I mean
proper trophies.
League titles and Champions League. Will he stay? Can Tottenham keep him?
It's so difficult, being a football fan, especially of a team like Tottenham, because we haven't won a trophy since 2008. We came we came close to winning the Champions League. We got into the final.
Yeah.
I don't think during the game we got close to winning it.
I think if you'd left Kane on the bench, you'd have stood a better chance of winning, to be honest.
Yeah, that was a bad tactical choice by Pochettino. As a Tottenham fan, I don't want to see Kane go, but I would have to hold my hands up if he did go and say good luck, and you can't blame him.
Absolutely.
You cannot blame him,
I've always, from the first time I saw him play, I actually said, that's a Real Madrid centre-forward there.
Do you think that's where he might go?
That's where he should go.
Don't say that.
He's a natural replacement for Benzema. A natural replacement. Nobody has to change. He doesn't have to change his game. Real Madrid don't have to change their game. You just plug in
slot him in.
60 younger model.
I think if he has to go, I'd prefer him to go to Real Madrid than Liverpool, Man City, or Man United. Obviously,
I don't think there's a place for him in Liverpool, and I don't think there are surprising things. And there are people doing all the analysis with the computers, and that if Liverpool turned around and said, "Yeah, we want him," then you've just got to hold your hand up and say, "Well, okay, they know, so yeah." fine. I can't see it myself. City, yes, I can see it. Aguero's definitely showing his age now.
He is showing his age, and he's out injured now, just had an operation.
Yeah. Is Jesus the answer? I don't think he is. So they need somebody up there, and Guardiola does like a forward like him. So I could see that. Manchester United, I really hope not. I really hope not. No.
Because you don't want Man United to be successful.
No, that would just be awful. No, I like Kane too much.
You wouldn't wish that on him, is what you're saying.
Exactly. No.
Well, I hope he stays. I mean, we've said this for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Is he going to go? Let's hope he stays and gives us just that one more season so that we can win something. And he keeps staying and showing his loyalty, or maybe he loves it there, maybe he enjoys it there. But there's going to come a point when he's going to have to say to his family and to Tottenham, I've given you my best, for my family and for my career, I've got to move.
Well, he's 26?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's got these next 2 contracts are the big ones in his in his career. He's coming into his prime. I wish him well. You could take Lewandowski out of Bayern Munich and he'd be just slot straight in there as well.
There's another one, yeah.
There's another one.
All right, let's move on. Just a topic that I want to bring up, an unpleasant topic, really, and I'm going to warn people that I am going to swear now, because some racist dickhead flew a banner over the Burnley-Manchester City game last week that said, "White Lives Matter, Burnley." Let's not beat about the bush. There's no bones about it. That is racist, and I think we can explain why.
Well, it clearly is racist. There's no doubt about it. The reason for the words Black Lives Matter was because with the behaviour of the American police shooting black men just for absolutely no reason showed that black lives did not matter. So there were 2 words missing at the end of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter as well. As well,
yeah. So,
and that's what it means to fly a banner saying White Lives Matter as if they never have is just.
They always do. They matter too much. That's the problem. Nobody else.
I don't think anybody's lives matter too much. But
no, but you know what I mean. At the expense of others.
Yes, and it's utterly shameful for the idiot to then come out afterwards and do the "I'm not racist, but." Now here's a clue. The word "but" negates everything that goes before it.
No, he's a racist.
Yes, if you don't want to be called a racist, don't say racist things and don't do racist things.
It's quite simple, really.
It isn't that difficult, is it?
But Burnley, of course, were very upset about it. Saunders came out very strongly, of course. The captain,
Ben Mee, he spoke so well. It was really impressive. And apparently the Burnley players were lining up. They all wanted to get in front of the cameras and say what they felt. So this idiot does not represent either Burnley Football Club or actually Burnley Town. To be honest, I've been up there quite a lot, and they're lovely people up there.
Yes,
that did not represent Burnley.
No, and the guy that did it, you're a racist, and have a little look at yourself, mate.
Well, yeah, and have a look at photographs of you standing with the other racist, the so-called Tommy Robertson, putting your fingers up to be a Hitler moustache. No, you're not a racist.
Not at all, no. Yeah, we know what we're dealing with there, but I just wanted to bring it up because it does matter that people understand the distinction between Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter and why they mean different things.
Yeah, and you look at the internet with all these memes being put up at a time to try to sort of do down the Black Lives Matter movement. It's all oh yes, but no. What's the reason for pushing that up there? It's because you're a racist and you do not want black people to have justice. Now, John Colbert in America, he did a he just put up this black woman. Yeah, I think she was in Washington, talking about what happens in her area and why the local people trash their own
neighbourhood,
yeah. And at the end of it, Colbert says, we shouldn't worry about black people wanting justice. We've got to start worrying when they want revenge.
Right, good point. Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, think so far, really, if you take it all the way back to slavery and everything that's happened, right up to policemen killing black guys for no reason.
Well, the guy with the violin who played music in the animal hospital to calm the animals down, he gets shot. I mean, what on earth is happening in this
country? So there is a difference between Black Lives Matter and White Lives Matter, and really, you've got to look at your privilege and think, yes, your life has always mattered, and that's the problem here.
Yes, I walk into a shop and I don't get the the store detective following me around because my skin's the wrong colour.
It's fear. I mean, I've seen people on Facebook, all lives matter, like there's some sort of guru, but actually you're missing the point.
They're very much missing the point, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If only all lives did matter. If all lives did matter, there would be no need for Black Lives
There would be
Matter.
no need for it, exactly, yeah. So we just want to say we're in full support of the players taking a knee, and we're very impressed with me and all the other Burnley players and other footballer players who've made their point.
Absolutely. It's been very gratifying to see it. And if this idiot racist lost his job because of it, well,
I don't care. That serves him right. Let's move on to what's coming up then in the world of football over the next few days. Well, this podcast, we're recording this on a Tuesday. It'll go out on Wednesday evening, but there is a game tonight. By the time this podcast comes out, it will have played. But as Geoff always says, when we make a prediction, we can only make ourselves look stupid. It's Brighton against Manchester United. I think that'll be an entertaining game. Brighton haven't been too bad lately, but Man United have been good.
Yeah, away win, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. But so we're going with Brighton to lose at home to Man United. Tomorrow, when this podcast goes out, so now, Arsenal-Norwich. Arsenal have won 2 games in a row now.
Yeah.
They're frighteningly good.
By the skin of their teeth. They haven't looked good doing it either. But
no.
And they're very dependent on Tobias, who is on loan, so he probably won't be there next season. But Arsenal, the Woolwich Wanderers, should win that match.
They should beat Norwich and probably condemn them to Championship football.
Yeah.
Bournemouth against Newcastle. Newcastle are sort of up and down, aren't they, at the moment?
I mean, the match the other day, they were absolutely shockingly bad against City. I mean, City could have scored any number of goals they wanted to. Newcastle were very, very bad as they were at the start of the season.
But then Bournemouth aren't very good at the moment either.
Yeah, but Eddie Howe is a very, very good manager. He's got to get it right sometimes, so I'll go for a home win.
All right, the home win for that. I'm going to go for a draw. Everton against Leicester.
Oh, that seems to have draw written all over it.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? That's got boring written all over it as well, I think.
What that will depend on is whether Leicester can pin back Everton's fullbacks. If they can, it's going to be a ball draw.
All right, and then tonight, in the sense that this podcast is going out when this game is being played, West Ham against Chelsea.
Well, you can only see an away win there, can't you?
You can, really. I'm sorry to say, Geoff. I think the best you can hope for is a draw by some sort of strange thing that will happen.
Well, if it's any other result, then the owners of West Ham have got to sit down with the players in an open meeting and saying, OK, why did you decide to play now? And why didn't you play last match, or the match before, or the match before?
All right, then Saturday, Norwich against Brighton.
Away win.
Away win and Norwich down. Leicester against Crystal Palace.
Home win.
Home win. Man United against Bournemouth. Home win.
Yeah.
Yes. Wolves against Arsenal. We're hoping for a home win.
Hoping for a home win. I mean, Wolves are a significantly better team than the Wanderers, so they should win that, yeah.
Yeah, and then another home win, I think, Chelsea against Watford.
Yes, yeah.
Right. There's a lot of fixtures, of course, coming thick and fast. Sunday, Burnley, Sheffield United.
Oh, that'll be an interesting game.
That will be, I think, because they're 2 very good sides, as we've said.
Yeah.
In the sense they have good managers who make the best of what they've got. Yeah. And both almost on, well, Sheffield were in the European contention.
Yeah.
But they're both on the edge of it.
Yeah. Draw. And
then West Ham are away at Newcastle. Surely a chance of a win.
A chance of a win, yeah.
So a draw then. They'll snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or the other way around.
I think it's defeat from the jaws of victory is what West Ham do, yeah.
All right, Liverpool against Aston Villa.
Home win.
Yeah, Southampton against Man City.
That would be an interesting game, actually. I'll go for draw.
Tottenham against Everton on Monday, next Monday.
Oh,
that is a tough one. I'm going to go for a home win, 2-1.
A home win?
Yeah.
I'll go for an away win. All
right. And then next Tuesday, that would bring us right round to next week's podcast, Palace against Chelsea.
Oh.
Got to be a away win, surely.
Draw.
Or do you think it's a draw? You think Palace might just hold them? Yeah. Watford against Norwich. There's 2 teams that really both need to win.
Home win.
But only one can.
Norwich will be down by then.
They might be, but they should be down by then, actually. That's a good point.
They'll be on the beach in their head.
Watford to win against Norwich, and Arsenal against Leicester. I mean, Leicester haven't been good enough lately, but maybe they'll have sort of sorted themselves out by that game.
Yeah, I'll go for an away win,
Yeah, I'm going to go for an away win. More hope than theory. Yeah. But that is what I'm going for. That sort of takes us round to this time next week. This podcast comes out every Wednesday, so we try to cover what games we can and give you our predictions. Those were they. Time for your trivia question, Geoff.
Okay, 1956 season, Charlton against Huddersfield. Charlton playing at home. With 20 minutes to go, Charlton were 5-1 down. And the question was, what happened next?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Charlton came back to win 7-6.
So it was 5-1, they were losing.
They were losing, yes.
So they scored 6 goals in the last 20 minutes.
But Huddersfield still scored.
And Huddersfield still managed to score. What the heck? That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they went from 5-1 down to winning 7-6.
To winning 7-6. Yeah.
With 20 minutes to go. Wow. Those were the days of exciting football.
Yeah, but you have to remember, it was all, there weren't colours then and people walked very fast.
It was all in black and white. People walked very fast. And there was no discernible offside rule.
Well, it kind of indicates that, doesn't it?
Yeah. If there was, nobody could tell what was going on. Yeah. Fantastic question there. Thank you, Jeff. That has been yet another episode of the Football Podcast Hitting the Bar. I am Chris Karle.
And I'm Geoff Saunders.
And we will join you next week for more Hitting the Bar, the Football Podcast.